the British crown? Who keeps the metric system down? We do. We do. Who keeps Atlantis off the maps? Who keeps the Martians under wraps?
In 1997, The Simpsons were still riding high. They had officially taken up the mantle of America's favorite family and had seen some of their best years in writing and ratings. After all the years of hard work, this animated family had now become a staple in popular culture, and it was hard to dive into entertainment and not even reference them. There were even famous names in Hollywood that stated that you have officially made it in Hollywood if you have been invited to guest star on The Simpsons. At this point, Mike Scully had tapped in to be the third showrunner and was determined to make sure that The Simpsons would remain on top. The 9th season would be a celebration for the show as it would air its 200th episode and would even feature the voice of comic legend Steve Martin. The Simpsons would even premiere the season with a trip to New York City. Not many would believe that this would be one of the hardest years for the show. The Simpsons were used to hearing criticism, but during Scully's run, there were many that said The Simpsons was going from being a relatable show to something truly outlandish. The Simpsons under Scully had been negatively labeled as a gag-heavy and particularly Homer-centric series, leaving the rest of the family in the background. Still, it was the fans that would have a louder voice and welcome Homer's outlandish escapades. Even before the 9th season would start, there would be a new set of kids on the block in adult animation, and they would have a statement to make. What started out as a video Christmas card made by two young animators with paper cutouts, it would miraculously grab the interest of cable station Comedy Central, and in August of 1997, a show called South Park would air. The creators of the show, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, made South Park very much like The Simpsons, with a very large ensemble cast and recurring characters, but it didn't have the walls of television networks holding them back, and they were able to push the barriers a bit further. South Park would be known from day one as a force to be reckoned with, for being infamous for its profanity and dark satirizing of world topics. It was also a show that featured a warning at the beginning of each episode telling parents that South Park may be animated, but this is for mature audiences only. Topics that took years to make it onto The Simpsons were brought forth by South Park right out the gate. The pilot episode, Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, would be one of the most talked about pilots among animation fans that summer, and the show would immediately get a buzz from all sources. The Simpsons didn't let the boys from South Park faze them at the time, as they didn't really pose much of a credible threat. But as season 9 would end, something would hit The Simpsons hard.
Well, sir, there's nothing on earth like a genuine bona fide electrified...
The Simpsons may have had a large ensemble cast, but the fans were able to always choose a favorite. And one of the most beloved voices on the show was the famed comedian Phil Hartman. Hartman arrived in the second season episode Bart Gets Hit by a Car, as the fumbling lawyer Lionel Hutz. Hartman was originally brought in for a one-time appearance. Hartman enjoyed working with The Simpsons so much that the staff took notice and would immediately try to find other ways to bring him back. He voiced the recurring characters of Lionel Hutz, Troy McClure, as well as several one-time and background characters. By the late 1990s, Hartman was at the top of his game with a successful run on Saturday Night Live. He held the record for the longest-running cast member for a strong 9 years. Leaving SNL in 1994, he would return to NBC as part of the ensemble cast in the cult favorite comedy series News Radio. His character Bill McNeil showed mannerisms of his Simpsons alter egos and would even bring Troy McClure out to entertain audiences between takes while taping episodes. He remarked, "My favorite fans are Troy McClure fans. He was one of the most beloved actors on The Simpsons, and the showrunners expanded Hartman's characters, even giving Troy McClure a whole episode featured around him in the episode A Fish Called Selma." However, something unexpected would happen on the night of May 27, 1998. Phil and his wife Bryn had a heated argument in regards to her addiction with drugs, in which he threatened to leave her if she started using again. While Hartman slept, Bryn fatally shot him once between the eyes, once in the throat, and once in the upper chest. She would later kill herself, and the next morning, The Simpsons and the world of entertainment would hear of this news, and things would be changed forever. After Hartman's death, Rather than replace him with a new voice actor, the production staff of The Simpsons retired Phil's characters from the show, as the staff believed that an actor like Phil Hartman was irreplaceable. Troy McClure's final appearance was in the Simpsons episode of Season 10, Bart the Mother. Up until this point, the 6 main voice actors were paid $30,000 per episode. A salary dispute between them and Fox would take place, and the actors would threaten to strike. Fox went as far as preparing for the casting of new voices, but an agreement would soon be made, and their salaries would be raised to $125,000 per episode. One of the show's recurring voice actresses, Maggie Roswell, would not be one of those that would receive a bump in pay, and she was furious. She would leave the show in 1999 after a pay dispute, and after Fox was only willing to raise her pay by $150, she had had enough. The tough part about Roswell's exit was the fact that she had voiced Maude Flanders amongst others in recent seasons, and had showed up more often due to more episodes featuring her husband Ned. Not many characters got an episode featuring a passing. The only Simpsons character that did in fact die on the show was Bleeding Gums Murphy in the show's episode Roundabout Springfield. However, the episode focused more on Lisa's love for his music rather than the character, because Bleeding Gums had not been featured in many episodes since the second season. Maude Flanders was killed off in an episode called Alone Again, Natra Diddley, and without Roswell's voice, she was replaced with the voice actress Marcia Mitzman Gavin, who would take up the mantle for Roswell's other characters as well. Roswell would eventually return to The Simpsons in 2002, providing that she would be able to record her work from home in Denver rather than having to fly into California, ending the dispute. Nevertheless, for the time, The Simpsons were seeing a change in the tides as the 10th season was about to begin. More were starting to notice the wear and tear in The Simpsons' armor, and some would say after Season 9 their best years would have officially been behind them. With the new millennium approaching, one thing was certain, as adult animation was now looking like something that could claim their stake, many were about to take advantage. The Simpsons would head into the 2000s with their heads held high, but there would be more competition knocking at the door. Ironically, this time around, it would even be from their own network. The Simpsons had already welcomed new animated families to the Fox lineup. One was a stop-motion family produced by comedic legend Eddie Murphy called the PJs. The show would only last one season before it would go off the air. However, back in 1997, Fox would call on cable animation guru Mike Judge to produce a show for network television. After his success with Beavis and Butthead and seeing more success with the first season of the show's spin-off Daria, Fox would air King of the Hill, the story of a Texan suburban family and their everyday lives. It was not as wacky and dysfunctional as The Simpsons, rather some would say that it captured a great deal of what The Simpsons used to have over the years. The newest animated family would arrive in 1999 from the mind of young comedic writer Seth MacFarlane, who had recently gotten into the world of animation after graduating from the Rhode Island School of Design. While in college, his thesis film entitled Life of Larry was submitted by his professor to Hanna-Barbera. MacFarlane would be hired by the company, and in 1996, MacFarlane created a sequel to the Life of Larry entitled Larry and Steve, which featured a middle-aged character named Larry and his intellectual dog. The short was broadcast in 1997 as one of the Cartoon Network's world premiere tunes. Executives at Fox saw the Larry shorts and contracted MacFarlane to create a series and gave him a budget of $50,000. While he worked on the series, the characters of Larry and Steve would slowly evolve into who we now know as Peter and Brian Griffin, and a new show, Family Guy, would premiere after the Super Bowl in 1999. After the pilot aired, the series was given the green light. MacFarlane drew inspiration from sitcoms such as The Simpsons, All in the Family, and even several Saturday morning cartoons which he watched as a kid. The show had a great deal of similarities to The Simpsons, but many would say that it is nothing like The Simpsons. Maybe it is the talking baby Stewie, hell-bent on world domination, or Brian the dog, who acted more sophisticated than his human owner Peter. The show would be even more outlandish and barrier-breaking than The Simpsons, and became a practical overnight sensation. There were even points in time when fans could see Family Guy taking The Simpsons' spot, entirely forcing The Simpsons to end their run on television. The Simpsons would catch a break in 2002 when an extremely controversial episode would be written for Family Guy called When You Wish Upon a Weinstein, which poked fun at Judaism. The episode would be the final nail in the coffin for Family Guy at the time, and the episode would not even air, and the show would be canceled entirely. Matt Groening was aware of all of this competition, and even tried to combat it with his own new creation. For a while, Fox expressed a strong desire for Matt Groening to create a new series. Groening would enlist his friend David X. Cohn, then a writer and producer of The Simpsons, to assist him with developing a new show. The two spent time researching science fiction books, television shows, and films, and came up with their own wacky visions of the future in Futurama. Fox ordered 13 episodes of the new show. Immediately after, however, Fox feared that the themes of the show would not be suitable for the network, and Groening and the Fox executives argued over whether the network would have any creative input on the show. The network wanted Futurama to be somewhere in the vicinity of The Simpsons quality-wise, and even offered notes, but Groening wanted no part of it, and like The Simpsons, Futurama got no studio interference. The show included a voice cast including Ren and Stimpy's Billy West as the main character Fry, Married with Children's Katie Seagal as the wisecracking Leela, and famed voice actor John DiMaggio as the fan-favorite antisocial robot named Bender. The show would see a pizza delivery boy from 1999 named Fry be frozen in time to wake up 1,000 years in the future. The show would have the same animation style of The Simpsons, but of course would be a very different kind of comedy based on visions of the future. Futurama would develop a following, but Fox really wouldn't give the show an easy time, often pushing back the episodes due to sporting events and having later than average season premieres. The show would soon see cancellation. While the competition seemed to be dwindling for The Simpsons, they would see their most controversial years. The season 10 finale, 30 Minutes Over Tokyo, saw the family travel to Japan. The episode referenced and mocked several aspects of Japanese and American culture, as well as the differences between the two. The Simpsons had featured many Japanese references in their show since the second season, when they introduced the Springfield resident, Akira, who was originally voiced by Star Trek legend George Takei. But 30 Minutes Over Tokyo would be the first Simpsons episode never to be dubbed and broadcast on Japanese television. To this day, that is the one episode of The Simpsons that has never aired in Japan. Al Jean returned to The Simpsons during the 10th season, and he would become the showrunner at the start of the 13th season in 2001. Jean made it clear by stating the hardest thing at this point was just thinking of fresh ideas. People are so on top of the things that we've done before, so the challenge is to try and find new ones. In April 2001, in an interview with the New York Times, Gene stated that he wanted to take the show back to the family and move away from its gag-heavy, Homer-centric incarnation. Another major blow for The Simpsons was the fact that they could no longer run the episode The City of New York City versus Homer Simpson in syndication due to the tragic events of September 11th, as one of the main comedy moments of that episode featured the now destroyed World Trade Center. Another episode that would make headlines was Blame It on Lisa. The Simpsons would visit Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. In the weeks following the episode's original broadcast, it faced intense controversy involving the country of Brazil, most specifically with the Rio de Janeiro tourist board, Rio Tour. The board claimed that the city was portrayed as having rampant street crime, kidnapping, slums, and rat infestation, and undermined an $18 million advertising campaign to attract visitors to the city. The current president of Brazil at the time stated that the episode brought a distorted version of Brazilian reality. Rio Tour was even preparing to sue the producers at Fox for the damage. The issue threatened to become a diplomatic incident. Upon knowledge of an impending lawsuit, the show producers contacted Fox lawyers, who informed them that the city could not technically sue them for defamation. In response, the executive producer James L. Brooks apologized, stating, "We apologize to the lovely city and people of Rio de Janeiro." Al Jean would even comment saying that it was the biggest controversy in the history of the show. Amidst the controversy and competition, the Simpsons train continued to chug along. In season 14, production switched from traditional cel to digital ink and paint. The money would continue to be made through the show's massive amount of syndication. Back in 2001, the Simpsons team capitalized on the home video market. The DVD market had reached its highest peak, and one of the biggest moneymakers was shows being sold in DVD format by the season. Now the average family no longer had to be upset if they missed their favorite show when it aired. They would now take advantage of having entire shows in physical media format to call their very own and watch whenever they wanted. Media was also going through a major change as new technologies such as TiVo were coming into the market. Now, you didn't even need to watch the show when it aired, rather you could use the technology of your devices to record the shows, pause live television, and even skip through commercials. It was truly a marvelous time seeing that technology had gotten to this point. As the money would continue to come in, the cast would want to grab a piece of the action. The main cast stopped appearing for script readings in April of 2004. The work stoppage occurred after weeks of unsuccessful negotiations with Fox as the cast was asking for another pay increase. The strike was resolved 1 month later, and their salaries were raised to something between $250,000 and $360,000 per episode. At this time, the Simpsons fandom had been going downward. Animation for adult viewership had reached a popularity that had never been seen before. While there had been a decent amount of shows that were part of this genre airing on cable television, the early 2000s saw a massive influx of adult animated programming. Cartoon Network even dedicated its late evening slots to their new block called Adult Swim, which featured American animated adult sitcoms and anime. That a new market had exploded for adults ranging from ages 18 to 35. These viewers enjoyed the extreme randomness and crazy plots that drove these shows. Another thing Adult Swim became famous for was being a haven for short-lived animated sitcoms that saw an early demise on network television. The WB's Oblongs, Baby Blues, and Mission Hill, and even Fox's two animated shows, Futurama and Family Guy. This, along with DVD sales, would bring both shows to the surface, and the fans would demand more episodes. And eventually, the fans would get more Family Guy, as it would make a massive comeback for a fourth season on Fox in 2005. And since then, Family Guy has been airing on Fox ever since.
It seems today that all you...
With the return of Family Guy to Fox in 2005, it seemed as if the torch had been passed to Seth MacFarlane for new ideas, as he would introduce his newest offering and jab at politics in American Dad. This would be the launch of Fox's Animation Domination Sundays. From 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday nights, Fox would broadcast nothing but animated programs, and the ratings would show success. The Simpsons were still feeling the burn within their network and even outside. Adult Swim continued to dominate in the ratings, and South Park, while still being on Comedy Central, was going strong. The Simpsons creators felt that they needed to do something that would make a big splash and bring the Simpsons back to the head of the pack. The Simpsons would announce in season 16 that there would be a major character development change, one of the first since its inception. In the episode There's Something About Marrying, there would be a major character that would come out as gay. At the San Diego Comic-Con in July 2004, Al Jean said, "There's going to be a long-time character coming out of the closet, but we're not saying who." This led to much speculation and publicity in the press. Many fans actually correctly guessed that it would be one of Homer's sisters-in-law, but they weren't sure if it was Patty or Selma, while others believed that it would be Waylon Smithers. The show was given praise for this move, especially since the world of film and television was seeing an emergence of LGBT representation. Most notable was the successful sitcom of NBC, Will and Grace. The Simpsons knew they had to do something even bigger. What could be bigger than an announcement that Simpsons fans had been dying to hear for many years? In 2006, something amazing would be revealed, and that big announcement was the fact that The Simpsons were finally coming to the big screen.